Hey folks, good morning and welcome to the official press introduction for Zero Motorcycles 2023 DSR-X. Yes, Zero Motorcycles has finally unveiled a true adventure bike for U.S. consumption. Let's go for a ride. Well, folks, there it is. Zero Motorcycles 2023 DSR-X. This is an all-new vehicle from Zero Motorcycles out of Santa Cruz, California. Now, it's crazy to think, but Zero Motorcycles has been crafting its all-electric motorcycles for 15 years now. The first Zero motorcycle debuted for the 2007 model year. Fast forward to today, and the Zero Motorcycles line expands with the addition of this adventure bike. Now, this vehicle features a giant 17.3 kilowatt hour battery. 17.3 kilowatt hours is a measure of the energy storage capacity of this vehicle. That's a whopping amount of power. These Zero motorcycles are always known for producing a hellacious amount of torque at the back wheel. The last time we rode a Zero SRF motorcycle for the 2020 model year, that thing put out a whopping 120 pound-feet of torque. This motor is said to put out 166 pound-feet torque. That's more than a Honda Goldwing. That's more than a 6-cylinder K1600 BMW. That is an insane amount of torque. And it's going to need it because this vehicle is heavy, 544 pounds as it sits. What do you guys think of the styling? I love the styling of this vehicle. It almost looks like it was out of the movie Oblivion. Yes. Let's take a look here. We have a 19-inch front cast aluminum wheel complemented with a 17-inch cast aluminum rear wheel. So this type of wheel configuration is what many modern adventure bikes use. BMW GS, the Suzuki V-Strom, the Harley-Davidson Pan America use that. And the 1917 wheel combo is good for riders who are looking to do a little bit of off-roading, but mainly road riding. That's why that 1917 combo works so good, generally. Look at this seat. Seat is nice and deep and plush. My favorite feature of this bike, next to this awesomely adjustable, easy to adjust windscreen, is the storage compartment. I love the storage compartment. This storage compartment swallows 7 gallons of gear. That's double the capacity of the SRF that we tested in the 2020 model year. There is the J1772 charging point. This vehicle can be charged with the J1772 charging point, or you can use a conventional household three-prong 110 adapter. If you plug in this vehicle at your house with a conventional household three-prong 110 adapter, this vehicle is going to take approximately 10 hours to charge from 0% to 95%. If you have J1772 functionality at your home or business, this charging time is reduced to roughly 4 hours. 4 hours for 0 to 95%. The reason why Zero Motorcycles and other EV companies quote 0 to 95% is because that is the majority of your charging. That last 5% has a lot to do with cell balancing and computer programming related to getting that last 5% battery capacity out of this vehicle. As you can see, we have an inverted fork up front, radial mount J. Juan brakes. That is now a Brembo owned company. Originally it was a Spanish brake company. rear shock. Look at that big reservoir, that big Showa reservoir. This shock mounts directly to the frame and swing arm without a linkage, which I generally am not a fan of bikes without a linkage, especially for off-road use, but in this application it seems to be working well. 7 inches, just over 7 inches of suspension travel front and rear. All right, folks, enough talking about the Zero SRF. Let's get in the cockpit and see what it's like to operate. Another neat thing we wanted to discuss is that belt final drive. So a lot of people out there are going to be like, why doesn't it have chain final drive? Well, chain final drive is loud. Yes, we love chain final drive. But when you're riding a vehicle that makes not a lot of noise, that chain drive can get a little annoying. Zero Motorcycle solution is this belt final drive, and look at how the belt final drive sprocket mounts directly to the 17-inch rear wheel. That's said to give the tire a more even torque load during acceleration. The rear belt sprocket has those holes inside of it. The holes are designed to move dirt and debris out of the surface between the sprocket and the belt final drive. That helps mitigate excess wear and keeps that belt from stretching or breaking when you're out on the trail. Now, this is one of the reasons why these Zero motorcycles are so awesome. Look at the auxiliary storage inside this DSRX. Via 2 torque screws, you can remove this panel and put more stuff in addition to the 7 gallons with USB plugs. Yes, thank you, Zero Motorcycles. I love storage, and this motorcycle has plenty of it. There is also a small storage compartment underneath the rider seat. Very nice. All right, folks, here we are at the official press introduction, official North American press introduction for Zero Motorcycles 2023 DSRX. This is an all-new adventure touring bike from Zero Motorcycles out of Santa Cruz, California. Now, this motorcycle is loosely based off its awesome Zero SRF naked bike, which we last operated for the 2020 model year many years ago. So what Zero did is they actually used that SRF as a baseline to build this motorcycle. The frame, swing arm, every component has been modified slightly for the added rigors of adventure touring riding. Now, this Zero Motorcycles features a very powerful 166 pound-feet air-cooled motor. This motor has plenty of get up and go. There's our buddy Abe. He is the chief engineer. He used to work at Buell Motorcycle Company. He's the chief technical officer dude at Zero Motorcycles. Air-cooled motor puts out 166 pound-feet of torque. That's about 26 pound-feet more than the SRF, which was rated at 140. That's way more torque than any modern internal combustion engine equipped motorcycle. And I love having all that torque. It's fun boning out on the street and here on this fire road, having all that power at your right wrist. Yes, love the G-forces that this motorcycle produces when you are riding and giving her the beans. All right, ergonomically on this bike, I like the ergonomics. This motorcycle is very is a big rider-friendly motorcycle. If you are a tall person or someone who is bigger than average, you're gonna like the ergonomics on this motorcycle. The handlebar is nice and tall. It doesn't have a lot of rearward sweep. This handlebar has a lot of forward sweep, which is kind of nice because it puts you in a real aggressive riding position. If you were gonna log a ton of highway miles, that front bias sweep might get a little annoying, but I like it. A lot of street bikes, pretty much all modern street bikes, are having more and more rearward sweep, so it's nice to ride a motorcycle that's going in the opposite direction. I like the seat. It's nice and low without it being too low, and it cups my rear end very nicely. It's a very cozy motorcycle to log miles on. I like this Fox fuel tank area. It's nice and big. It does a good job of blocking the elements, which is what you want on a touring bike. We're riding right now in the standing position, and believe it or not, the standing ergonomics on this bike are really good. Really good. We rode an internal combustion engine equipped motorcycle, a new one, recently in Colorado, and the ergonomics on that bike weren't as good as this bike, which is crazy. So I like the standing ergonomics. I like the big serrated foot pegs. I like, this vehicle, it's a little bit wide. But I like the width because it's really easy to squeeze the bike with my legs. Like, there's substantial surface area to do that, so I feel like I have a lot of control. And the fuel tank, the way it's shaped, the Fox fuel tank, it's not in my way. I like that. Yes, right now we are riding in, the off-road traction control setting. So we're riding in standard power configuration with the off-road traction control and off-road ABS, which disables rear ABS. So we can lock up the back wheel if we like. Actually, I'm sorry, ABS is still on in the off-road setting. It's just with off-road ABS calibration. Now this vehicle has just over 7 inches of suspension travel. Suspension has a lot of work to do. This vehicle weighs a whopping 544 pounds. 544 pounds, isn't that crazy? This thing is no featherweight. You definitely feel the weight. You can feel the suspension, just how it moves the weight and how it has to react with that much mass. Realistically, when you're riding on the street, you'd be hard pressed to even feel its heft. It's crazy how maneuverable this motorcycle is on the road, but there's no denying that this thing is a heavyweight bike. Suspension, of course, has preload, spring preload, and damping adjustment front and aft. We talked about that Showa shock. I like that big beefy shock with this big reservoir on it. It looks real mean. No doubt that big reservoir has a lot of nitrogen in there to help keep the damping qualities fixed when it gets hot during rides, or just from damping all 544 pounds of this motorcycle. God, this is fun! Riding electric motorcycles is neat because there's no engine noise, no vibration, no exhaust noise. It's just like a different experience. But I like it. I like that there's no clutch to actuate, no gears to shift. I'm a big fan of Honda's DCT. DCT is a clutchless setup with gear shifts that are done automatically or by a push of a button, and I just like the way that feels. Yes! God, this thing does not go slow. Thankfully, it has a nice size triple disc brakes. The rear disc brake on this vehicle is the biggest rear disc Zero Motorcycles ever put on one of its motorcycles. It's a good thing it has it. God, that's so fun to spin up the engine. This off-road traction control mode is really nice because it allows some level of wheel spin. And the connection between motorcycle and throttle, it works really well. I like the throttle response on this vehicle. It's not too touchy, it's not too dull. You feel real connected on this bike. And there is our group. We are going to wait for everyone here, and then we will rejoin everyone and talk more about this vehicle. This is when you feel the weight at parking lot speeds and at low speed maneuvers. All right, folks, we're going to catch in with you in a little bit. All right, folks, a good old-fashioned mechanical key is how you start this thing. You put it in the ignition, turn the ignition on, the 5-inch color TFT display lights up with that cool little Zero Motorcycles logo. Turn it on to run, and away you go. Throttle and go. Gosh, I love this motorcycle. I love this nearly 7-gallon storage compartment that just swallows gear, 12 packs, whatever you want to put in there. I love it. There again is the J1772 charging port that is capable of charging this vehicle up to 95% with this charging port in level 2 in 4 hours. All right, let's go. Can I go? Can I go? Great. And away we go, folks. We talked about this DSR-X, how it rolls on a 19-inch front, 17-inch rear wheel combo. That is the same wheel size that all old school adventure touring bikes use. The R1250 GS, V-Strom 1000, and now the Pan America. The 1917 combo is designed primarily for road going motorcycles that want to have a little bit of off-road ability. If you really want to get nasty with it, though, you want a 21-inch front, 18-inch rear wheel equipped motorcycle like an Africa Twin or a KTM Super Adventure. That's for riders who really want to get nasty with it. But to be fair, BMW's R1250 GS can get pretty nasty, but they've just done such a marvelous job of engineering the 19-17-inch wheel combo over the decades that they've made that motorcycle. God, this thing is just so comfortable. It's so neat not having any traditional motorcycle sounds. You just hear the wind, you just hear the road. There's no chain noise with that belt final drive. It's a real, almost like serene experience. Talk about tranquility and peacefulness. I like this manually adjustable windscreen. It has a good range of adjustment. I'm running in the low setting to get a little bit of airflow over my body. If it was colder out, I would definitely put it up, but it's kind of warm today. It's probably about 78, 80 degrees. Rear view mirrors do a nice job of showing off what's behind. This vehicle has a 12-volt power point right here. There's also 2 USB chargers inside this Fox fuel tank. And we have heated grips, which can be actuated with this switch gear right here. 3-level adjustable heated grips for riding in chilly weather. Oh yeah, this thing gets some, dude. See if we can switch the power modes on this motorcycle. All right, to change the power modes on this motorcycle, you press this mode button in and then you press it to the right. This mode button reminds me of the setup that Aprilia, that a Piaggio group used to use many years ago. And this is one of the things I do not like about these Zero motorcycles. The switchgear's too old. They need to update this. Preferably with a BMW style multi-wheel or a Yamaha style multi-wheel with better tactile function. That's what we'd like to see on this bike. We're riding in sport engine configuration, which is max beans. God, this thing bones out. It's crazy how fast this bike is. Like we said earlier, thankfully it has a good strong set of triple hydraulic disc brakes, but we'd be lying if we didn't say the brakes, they work great and they have good power. Brake bite's a little bit soft, and power wise you really have to get in that lever for this thing to slow down. You're stopping a lot of mass, so brakes work good, but even more braking power would be good, just considering how heavy this vehicle is. I like this 5-inch color TFT display. The fonts are nice and sharp. It looks real crisp. The font sizes are a little bit small though. Look at all this wasted space. This should all be the display. Look how small the clock is. Look how small the range is. Look how small the speed is. Zero motorcycles, please increase the size of the fonts on this display. They should be bigger. Now with the 17.3 kilowatt hour battery pack, Zero claims that this motorcycle is good for a range of 85 highway miles. 85 highway miles, that's pretty good. If you ride in the city, it's over 100 miles. If you ride off-road, it's over 100 miles too. Highway is the worst energy consumption because you're going at a constant speed. City and off-road, you are varying your speed. You get a benefit of a little bit of regen during deacceleration. So that is why range is increased in those scenarios. Zero Motorcycles also offers an accessory larger power pack, I think that goes to 21 kilowatt hours. So for folks who want even more range, you can buy that. This vehicle comes standard with a 6 kilowatt hour charger that's been repositioned. Before, that charging apparatus was underneath the motorcycle, like on the Zero SRF. They had to move it to the tail section because this motorcycle needed added ground clearance for off-highway use. Of course, you can always scale the charging system on this motorcycle. So if you need more charging power, you can buy an accessory 6 kilowatt charger, and that effectively doubles the charging rate on this vehicle. I think it's neat that this motorcycle has the J1772 level 2 charger. Realistically, that's what most of the United States offers right now, and those J1772 power ports are becoming increasingly more popular all over America. Heck, I want to put one in my garage here pretty soon so I can start charging my EV vehicles. God, this thing rides real nice. Talked about how heavy it is. When you're riding it, it doesn't feel very heavy, very agile. It's long though. This is a long feeling motorcycle. It feels long, nose to tail, and then pair it with the size XL ergonomics that are very large rider friendly. This motorcycle feels like 110% full size motorcycle. It's big. This is the SUV of e-bikes, no doubt. LED lighting front and rear. helps this motorcycle stand out after dark. Curiously, however, this bike has halogen bulb light bulbs. Zero, why do we have halogen bulb light bulbs? Please. Should be using LED turn signals on a 2023 vehicle. Because we are on a lead follow style ride at a official press introduction, we can't just go ride wherever we want. We can't ride this motorcycle after dark. We can't put this vehicle through our comprehensive battery of tests that we do in every review. So the jury's still going to be out on the performance of this motorcycle after dark. But judging by the shape of the LEDs, they're pretty big, they're pretty wide, they're pretty tall. I bet you anything this thing probably throws off a good swath of light. Let's switch our power mode again. Now we're going to go into Eco. So Eco power mode uses the most amount of regen. Regen is almost like engine braking. So it slows the motorcycle down without having to use the hydraulic brakes, and at the same time that engine brake like effect creates energy that goes back into the power pack, so you have more power to use later on. So for folks who like a lot of engine braking, conventional engine braking effect during deacceleration, you're going to want a lot of regen. For folks that want more of a freewheeling feel, then you're going to want less regen. I don't know. We're going kind of slow right now because of this internal combustion engine powered truck in front of us. So I'm perfectly happy riding in the mode we are riding in. Now the neat thing about these electric motorcycles is they're virtually devoid of maintenance. Aside from periodic tension checks on the belt final drive and hydraulic brake fluid flushes, that's pretty much the extent of the maintenance on these vehicles. Of course, you're going to have to update the firmware on this bike every so often, because Zero Motorcycles is always improving its firmware and software. But if you're a motorcycle rider that wants to spend more time riding and less time maintaining your bike or dealing with maintenance, these EV bikes are a great option just because they're so devoid of the typical maintenance of a gasoline motorcycle. Alright folks, finally that guy pulled off on the road, so we can open her up. Let's switch into canyon mode. Yes, canyon mode. Ooh, yeah. Oh, I like canyon mode. Alright, let's give her the beans. Ooh, yeah. This thing bones out nicely. I love the handling of this bike. Who knew a 544-pound street bike can feel so agile? Suspension feels well supported on this curvy road. Of course, when we were riding off-road, we could feel the heft of that motorcycle trying to be controlled by the suspension. You know, realistically, even though this is an adventure touring bike, and props to Zero Motorcycles for actually being one of the first electric motorcycle companies to make an adventure touring bike, you're not going to really get nasty with this bike. It just weighs too much. Still, for fire roads and light off-roading, this motorcycle more than capable for it. And realistically, that's the vast majority of ADV riders. They're not going to be getting nasty on these bikes. So if you're not going to be nasty, you may as well have something. Ooh, our engine heat. I'm sorry, our motor heat is getting a little warm. As you can see, by that flashing red sign. Let's see what happens. We've been riding approximately 30 miles and we've used about 1/3 of our battery capacity. But to be fair, we've been wailing on this thing on the pavement. Off-road, less wailing. But the jury will still be out on Zero Motorcycles 85 highway mile claimed until we get one of these vehicles at our office at home and put it through our battery of tests. Now, another neat thing about this Zero Motorcycles DSRX is that it uses Bosch sourced vehicle stability and ABS controllers. Bosch sourced ABS and vehicle stability controllers are class leading. Bosch and Zero Motorcycles have been working together for nearly a decade now. So their electronics and their integration into their vehicles works really well. What's up?
Sorry. I didn't know you were talking.
That's all good.
That
Yep.
was you behind me, right?
Yep, it was good. Good pace, man. Nice bike.
Yeah, absolutely. That was super fun.
What happens when the motor gets hot?
It just gets hot. You get the thermal light. I don't even know if that's motor. Well, it might be motor because, yeah, you have battery right there.
Okay.
Yeah, the motor's up there a little bit.
No, it was red. It was flashing.
Oh, this was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just got hot a little
Okay,
bit.
sweet.
Yeah. My motor
Yeah.
didn't get hot, though.
So if it gets hot, it doesn't even matter. Everything's good.
Pull down power a little bit 'cause it's hitting its thermal limit.
Uh-huh.
But it's not going to do anything to the bike or anything.
Okay. So if the motor gets hot like that, it'll pull down power. It'll reduce power a little bit, but it's not going to have any detrimental effect on the vehicle. That person we were talking to is the official Zero Motorcycles test rider. On the road again. We are back on the road again on the 2023 Zero Motorcycles DSRX. I like this bike. It offers something a little bit different compared to internal combustion engine equipped motorcycle. The lack of noise, lack of engine heat, lack of engine vibration. I like all of these features. It makes for a real pleasing motorcycle experience. It's cool just kind of having the wind over your helmet and just kind of experiencing it. It's almost like you're flying in a way. You're just flying. It's kind of neat. Will this bike replace the internal combustion engine equipped adventure touring bike in my garage? Probably not. You know, I like gasoline powered adventure touring bikes because you can get nasty on them and go crazy places and fuel's everywhere. But there will come a day, probably in the next 15-20 years, where the tides change and it's gonna be EV bikes only, probably. So may as well get used to it, may as well embrace the change. And Zero Motorcycles is doing a nice job, and it's a very valiant effort with its first adventure touring bike in the DSRX. Alright folks, we're gonna cruise on back to our hotel. We've vlogged around 50 miles today, not a super long ride. Gonna use about 50% of the battery capacity over that 50-mile ride duration. But we're gonna pull back into our lodging accommodations and wrap this thing up. We'll see you folks later. All right, folks, there it is. We had a nice ride on Zero Motorcycles 2023 DSRX. We rode about 50 miles today and used 40% battery capacity. Not a bad day. I like this motorcycle. I like how big it is. You know, I'm a taller guy, 6 foot tall. I weigh kind of too much right now, and this big motorcycle fits me well. Yeah, the ergonomics are maybe not the most well suited to a smaller human being, besides the low to the ground rider seat. I think it's a pretty neat motorcycle. Visually, I'm kind of into it. I like its Oblivion-esque looks. I like the sinks on the battery pack and the sinks on the Z-Force motor. This motor is actually the first Zero Motorcycles motor that it is manufacturing in California. So this whole motorcycle you see here is assembled in California. It's not like Apple where they make their iPhones and MacBook Pros in China. These guys build it from foreign sourced parts in America. And I think that's pretty neat. Would I spend my $24,500 on one of these 2023 Zero DSR-X's? I don't know. I mean, this bike would work good for my lifestyle around home. It'd be good for running errands because it's got so much storage capacity. It's big, so it stands out on the road. It's comfortable, hauls ass. I like those features. But for $24,500, it's a little bit too expensive for me. Not saying that it's a nice bike. I still would gravitate towards internal combustion adventure touring bike. But that said, this DSR-X still has a lot going for it, and it would work pretty good for my lifestyle in Southern California. It's comfortable, it has good range, great power, good utility. And if you're someone who doesn't want to monkey with gasoline and maintenance and all that kind of stuff, this $24,500 DSR-X from Zero Motorcycles might be a good option for you. Well, folks, that's a wrap from the official North American press introduction of this 2023 Zero Motorcycles DSR-X vehicle. Make sure to surf on over to motorcyclistonline.com. That's where all of our written content lives. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs it down if you didn't, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for riding with us.